Hi, I'm Julie Strong, CEO at C1S Group. We are really excited about this project and the opportunity to show our client what construction professionals can do when we all work together. C1S has a history of delivering safe, successful projects, and we expect this will be another one that we can all be proud of. You need to know that C1S cares more about your safety than anything else. I'm going to say that again. C1S cares more about your safety than anything else. We want you to go home the same way you came today. Maybe a little more tired, but certainly healthy and injury-free. We all have lives and families outside of this project, and they are worth protecting. You have to care enough every single day to make sure you're safe and the people around you are safe. You have to know what working safe looks like. What PPE do you wear? What hazards are on this project? Do you have the right tools and training to do your job safely? Are you being asked to do something that's not safe? If you're not sure, stop and ask. Take the time to stop and ask. The C1S project management team is always on site, and they will get you answers. We're going to talk a lot about safety, and we're going to be watching out for everyone's safety, but we can't be everywhere at all times. You have to take responsibility for yourself. You have to care enough about yourself and the people around you to make this a safe job site. We want 0 injuries on this project. 0. It is so doable if we all commit to it. So that's the goal. That's what success looks like to C1S. Are you in?
As Julie said, at C1S Group we have a history of safe and successful projects. Obviously, a critical component of being safe is knowing what safe work looks like. During today's video, we will review specific safety requirements from the C1S Safety program, along with some general notes on safe work practices. We will discuss the site-specific project safety orientation form, a document you will review and sign prior to beginning work. We will discuss our hazard communication plan, along with our emergency response procedures. We will review the job hazard analysis process and form, used to identify and mitigate the risks associated with the site activities. We will review the site's requirement for personal protective equipment, good housekeeping, and attendance at safety toolbox meetings. Finally, we will review some of the most common causes of injury on construction sites and the measures we will take to keep the site and all workers safe. Remember, safety is no accident, so please pay attention to the remainder of this video.
Hello, I'm Matt Strong, President and Founder of C1S Group. It's great to have you on this C1S construction project. I'd like to introduce you to C1S and provide some background about our company. We started right here in Dallas in 2001, providing design and construction services to industrial, commercial, and manufacturing clients. We pride ourselves for successfully working in our clients' critical environments. The nature of our projects is that many times we're working in our clients' businesses as they continue to run their operations. Maintaining safety is paramount to ensure project success for you, for C1S, and for the operational success of our clients. Safety is a way of mind. Safety is a C1S constant. That means it never wavers and it never declines. Construction job sites are safer than any time since 1992. But we still see on average 12 fatalities every day. That's over 4,500 people that don't go home at the end of the day. C1S has developed an extensive safety program that draws on OSHA standards, as well as our own in-house expertise relative to the critical environments that we work in. We have this program so that you know exactly what is expected and how you can safely execute your job. The C1S safety program includes safety orientations, which you're a part of right now, project pre-planning, weekly job site safety meetings, specialized training, job hazard assessments or JHAs, site inspections, or just asking questions when uncertain or confused, and reporting unsafe situations or actions on the job site. These are just some of the things that you will experience as part of the C1S safety program. We're excited to have you on board this exciting project, and we look forward to this and many more successful projects. Remember, safety is a C1S constant.
In addition to this general safety orientation video, all workers on this site will receive a site-specific project safety orientation. This orientation will be conducted by the C1S construction project manager or superintendent on your job site. In most cases, this orientation will immediately follow this video. As part of the project safety orientation, you will learn the location of the safety data sheets and the location of the first aid kit. We will review the emergency action plan and phone numbers for the nearest emergency responders. During the orientation, We will also review incident and accident reporting procedures, as well as our safety hazard notice and compliance process. The orientation will also review site-specific hazards and safety rules specific to this site. C1S will document your completion of this orientation and maintain those records as part of the project documentation. A job hazard analysis, or JHA, is a technique that focuses on job tasks as a way to identify hazards before they occur. It focuses on the relationship between the worker, the task, the tools, and the environment. Workers can use the JHA process to identify risks and take steps to eliminate and prevent hazards in the workplace. The JHA can also be used as a tool for training new employees in the steps required to perform their jobs safely. On C1S job sites, not every task requires a JHA. However, when the site leadership believes a process, task, or procedure has the potential for significant injury and/or property damage, a JHA will be required. Your employer may or may not have their own JHA form and process. If they do not, C1S will provide you with their JHA form. Each JHA begins with identification of the steps required to complete the task. The second is the identification of the hazards in each step. Think to yourself, as I do this part of the task, what is the worst thing that could happen to me? The third step is then identifying, how do I keep that worst thing from happening? These two parts of the process should be repeated until all hazards are identified and safety controls for each are designated. It is important to be specific and clear in the designation and implementation of the controls to ensure the accurate and complete implementation of the safety measure. It is also important to note each JHA is a living document, needs to be adjusted as conditions on site change. As construction progresses, site conditions will change and site hazards along with them. Each JHA should be reviewed and assessed prior to beginning work, regardless of how many times the task has been performed. Finally, JHAs can be a great tool to teach workers to identify risks and think about the appropriate safety protocol to mitigate those risks. No one item has a greater impact on the overall success of a safety program than good housekeeping. Due to its importance, good housekeeping must be planned for at the beginning of work and followed through to final clean and project turnover. Daily cleanup is required, even for electricians. All jokes aside, scrap material, whether it be lumber, insulation, sheetrock, wire clippings, whatever it is, all material must be kept clear from work areas and passageways. C1S provides designated trash receptacles, and all waste should be disposed of accordingly. It is important all material, whether scrap or simply staged for future use, must be clear of all aisles, stairways, emergency exits, and fire extinguishers. Rolling stock must also be chalked or otherwise effectively secured from displacement. Special care should be given to keep extension cords, air hoses, similar equipment from being a trip hazard. Liquid spills should be cleaned up immediately, and any hazardous spill must be reported to C1S personnel. Finally, consideration must be given to keep lighting levels in work areas suitable for safe work. Engineering and administrative controls are the primary methods used to eliminate or minimize hazard exposure in the workplace. When such controls are not practical or applicable, personal protective equipment shall be employed to reduce or eliminate personal exposure to hazards. PPE will be provided, used, and maintained when it has been determined that its use is required and that such use will lessen the likelihood of occupational injuries and/or illnesses. All personnel in this job site will wear, at a minimum, reflective vests, head protection, sturdy work boots with a hard sole, and eye protection. For other potential hazards, the proper PPE will be selected to protect the worker from the hazard. Any worker required to use PPE shall be trained in its use and will know how to wear and adjust the PPE, the limitations of the equipment, proper maintenance and care procedures for the equipment, and how to identify when equipment is beyond its useful life. Appropriate work attire will be worn at all times. Shorts, sweatpants, and sleeveless shirts are not appropriate work attire. Extra care should be exercised around rotating equipment. Head protection shall be worn at all times until all overhead hazards have been eliminated and the project is substantially complete to the point the public has access. Eye protection will be worn if there is a reasonable risk of exposure to flying particles. Side shields and full face shields may be required for certain tasks. Workers wearing prescription lenses must be sure their protective eyewear and prescription eyewear do not interfere with each other. Sandals, tennis shoes, and any other soft cloth shoe will not be worn on site. When deemed necessary, steel-toe shoes and/or metatarsal guards may be required. Hand protection is required when a worker's hands are exposed to hazards such as dangerous chemicals, sharp edges, or extreme temperatures. Selection of the gloves shall be based on the type of hazard identified. Hearing protection should be used anytime sound levels may exceed 85 decibels. Protective devices may include earplugs, earmuffs, or a combination of the two. Cotton balls and other unapproved devices shall not be used. Anytime workers are at a height of 6 feet or above, they shall be protected by fall protection equipment. Workers will be required to wear respiratory protection when working in an atmosphere with containment levels above OSHA's permissible exposure limits. Any worker wearing a respirator must be fit tested and trained in its proper use. C1S will conduct regularly scheduled weekly safety meetings or toolbox talks. The safety meeting topic shall be selected by the superintendent or construction manager and will be related to the hazards associated with the current project and scope of work.
So OSHA standard, there is no federal requirement for a heat illness protection plan. Okay? There are recommendations. If you go, they have a page under the federal OSHA where there are recommendations that kind of mirror what Cal OSHA has been doing for decades. So what we're going to review is basically Cal OSHA requirements. Now, none of these are required in Texas, but we recommend them. It helps keep people from getting overheated. Some of it you'll see is pretty stringent. We can modify it and work around it to meet our needs for each project. So,
each subcontractor will record their attendance at the meeting, and C1S will maintain the record in the project file. Attendance at these meetings is a requirement of your contract. As Matt stated earlier on in this presentation, there were over 4,000 worker deaths last year. These four categories of accidents accounted for almost 60% of the construction-related deaths. Diligence in these areas alone could save thousands of lives. As you begin work in this site, please give extra consideration to these hazards and how to protect against them. In 2004, falls accounted for almost 40% of all construction-related deaths. When working from heights such as ladders, scaffolds, and roofs, you must plan work to ensure the job is done safely. Begin by deciding how the job will be done, what tasks will be involved, and what safety equipment may be needed to complete each task. Workers who are 6 feet or more above lower levels are at risk for serious injury or death if they should fall. To protect yourself, always use fall protection and the right equipment for the job, including the right kinds of ladders, scaffolds, and safety gear. Different ladders and scaffolds are appropriate for different jobs. Falls can be prevented when workers understand proper setup and safe use of equipment. This requires training on the specific equipment they will use to complete the job. Employers must train workers in hazard recognition and in the care and safe use of ladders, scaffolds, fall protection systems, and other equipment they'll be using on the job. Electricity has long been recognized as a serious workplace hazard. OSHA's electrical standards are designed to protect employees exposed to dangers such as electric shock, electrocution, fires, and explosions. Therefore, be safe by recognizing, avoiding, and protecting against all of these electrical hazards. These be safe terms are defined as follows. B equals burns. A burn is the most common shock-related injury. Burns from electricity are one of three types: electrical, arc flash, or thermal contact. E equals electrocution. Electrocution is fatal. It means to kill with electricity. Electrocution results when a human is exposed to a lethal amount of electrical energy. S equals shock. Shock results when the body becomes part of the electrical circuit. Current enters the body at one point and leaves at another. Electrical shock is defined as a reflex response to the passage of electric current through the body. A equals arc flash or arc blast. An arc flash is the sudden release of electrical energy through the air when a high voltage gap exists and there's a breakdown between conductors. An arc flash gives off thermal radiation, or heat, and bright, intense light that can cause burns. Temperatures in an arc flash have been recorded as high as 35,000 degrees Fahrenheit. High voltage arcs can also produce considerable pressure waves by rapidly heating the air and creating a blast. F equals fire. Most electrical distribution fires result from problems with fixed wiring, such as faulty electrical outlets and old wiring. Problems with cords, such as extension and appliance cords, plugs, receptacles, and switches also cause electrical fires. E equals explosions. An explosion can occur when electricity ignites an explosive mixture of material in the air. The following tips can help you avoid some of the most common electricity-related hazards. First, maintain a safe distance from overhead power lines. Staying away from power lines entirely is the best option, but when you must work in proximity, follow established clearance distances. Next, utilize GFCIs, or ground fault circuit interrupters. A GFCI is designed to protect people from server and sometimes fatal electric shock. A GFCI detects ground faults and interrupts the flow of electric current, and is designed to protect the worker by limiting the duration of an electrical shock. Workers will also need to inspect extension cords prior to their use for any cuts or abrasions. Extension cords may have damaged insulation. Sometimes the insulation inside an electrical tool or appliance is damaged. When the insulation is damaged, exposed metal parts may become energized if a live wire inside touches them. Electric hand tools that are old, damaged, or misused may have damaged insulation inside. Flexible cords used with temporary and portable lights shall be designed for hard or extra hard usage. They shall be marked with usage type designation, size, and number of conductors. An example for this cord designation could be a 14-3, meaning the conductor size is 14 and the number of conductors is 3. Next, workers using power tools and equipment should follow tool safety tips to avoid misusing equipment. A few of these tool safety tips are as follows. Never carry a tool by the cord. Never yank the cord to disconnect it. Keep cords away from heat, oil, and sharp edges. Disconnect when not in use and when changing accessories such as blades and bits. Avoid accidental starting. Do not hold fingers on the switch button while carrying a plugged-in cord. Use gloves and appropriate footwear. Store in a dry place when not using. Don't use in wet, damp environments. Keep working areas well lit. Ensure that cords do not cause a tripping hazard. Remove damaged tools from use. And use double insulated tools. Finally, lockout-tagout is an essential safety procedure that protects workers from injury while working on or near electrical circuits and equipment. In addition, lockout-tagout prevents contact with operating equipment parts, such as blades, gears, shafts, and others. Also, lockout-tagout prevents the unexpected release of hazardous gases, fluids, or solid matter in areas where workers are present. Struck by objects is another leading cause of construction-related deaths. Approximately 75% of struck-by fatalities involve heavy equipment, such as trucks or cranes. Safety and health programs must take into account the many ways struck-by accidents can occur. If vehicle safety practices are not observed at your site, you risk being pinned between construction vehicles and walls, struck by swinging backhoes, crushed beneath overturned vehicles, or struck by a car or truck. You can avoid vehicular risks by wearing seatbelts, making sure areas are clear prior to engaging in a lifting or dumping activity, setting parking brakes, operating at posted speed limits, not carrying personnel except in designated seats, utilizing and following traffic signs, warning barricades and flaggers. Also, wearing a reflective vest in all light levels can save your life. You are at risk from falling objects when you are beneath cranes, scaffolds, or where other overhead work is being performed. There is a danger from flying objects when power tools or activities like pushing, pulling, prying may cause objects to become airborne. Injuries can range from minor abrasions to concussions, blindness, or even death. You can avoid these hazards by wearing hard hats. Stack all materials to prevent sliding, falling, or collapse. Use protective measures, such as toe boards or debris nets. When using power tools or machines, make sure to wear safety glasses, goggles, or face shields, where machines or tools may cause flying particles. Inspect tools, such as saws and lathes, to ensure that protective guards are in good condition. Make sure you are trained in the proper operation of powder-actuated tools. When working with or around a crane or hoist, avoid working underneath loads being moved. Barricade hazard areas and post warning signs. Inspect cranes and hoists to see that all components such as wire rope, lifting hooks, or chains are in good condition. Do not exceed lifting capacity of cranes and hoists. When working overhead, secure tools and materials to prevent them from falling on people below. Barricade hazard areas and post warning signs. Use tow boards, screens, or guardrails on scaffolds to prevent falling objects, or use debris nets, catch platforms, or canopies to catch or deflect falling objects. Constructing concrete and masonry walls is especially dangerous because of the tremendous loads that need to be supported. There are risks of major accidents and even death when jacks or lifting equipment are used to position slabs and walls, or when shoring is required until structures can support themselves. You can avoid these risks by not placing construction loads on a concrete structure until a qualified person indicates that it can support the load. Adequately shore or brace structures until permanent supporting elements are in place, or concrete has been tested to assure sufficient strength. Only allow those who are essential to and actively engaged in construction or lifting operations to enter the work area. Take measures to prevent unrolled wire mesh from recoiling, such as securing each end or turning the rollover. Do not load lifting devices beyond their capacity. Use automatic holding devices to support forms in case a lifting mechanism fails. Caught in between hazards kill workers in a variety of ways. These include cave-ins and other hazards of excavation work, body parts pulled into unguarded machinery, standing within the swing radius of cranes and other construction equipment, or caught between equipment and fixed objects. Excavation hazards are common on construction sites. These workers are more than twice as likely to be killed than workers in any other type of construction work. Excavations and trenches are unstable by nature, and many types of serious hazards exist when doing this type of work. Cave-ins can suffocate or crush workers. Hazardous atmospheres can kill or injure workers. Oxygen deficiency can suffocate a worker. Flammable gases or vapors can cause fires and explosions in trenches. Toxic gases or vapors can kill or seriously injure workers. Workers can drown in water, sewage, or chemicals if these haven't been controlled, by diverting them elsewhere or locking them out to prevent worker exposure. Workers can face burns, electrocution, or explosions while working around various underground utilities, such as steam, hot water, gas, or electricity. OSHA requires a competent person to be on site when doing excavations. That person must be able to recognize hazards that exist and hazards that could occur, and that person must have the authority to take action to correct those conditions. He or she must also inspect the excavation, the surrounding areas, and the protective systems every day before the start of work. Almost all sites use machinery that has moving or rotating parts, or that requires maintenance or repair at some point during construction. If machinery is not properly guarded or de-energized during maintenance or repair, injuries from caught in or between hazards may result, ranging from amputations and fractures to death. When machines or power tools are not properly guarded, workers can get their clothing or parts of their body caught in the machines. If machines are not de-energized, locked out when they are being repaired, they may cycle or otherwise start up and catch a worker's body part or clothing and cause injury or death. Make sure that your equipment is de-energized and cannot be started accidentally. First, disconnect tools when not in use, before servicing, and when changing accessories such as blades, bits, and cutters. Turn off vehicles before you do maintenance or repair work. If possible, lock out the power source to the equipment. The type of power source may be electronic, pneumatic, liquid fuel, hydraulic, or powder actuated. Lower or block the blades of bulldozers, scrapers, and similar equipment before you make repairs or when the equipment is not in use. You can also be pinned between equipment and a solid object, such as a wall or another piece of equipment, between materials being stacked or stored, and a solid object, such as a wall or another piece of equipment, or between shoring and construction materials in a trench. These types of hazards can result in multiple broken bones, asphyxiation, or death. Be aware at all times of the equipment around you and stay a safe distance from it. Never place yourself between moving materials and an immovable structure, vehicle, or stacked materials. Make sure that all loads carried by equipment are stable and secure. Stay out of the swing radius of cranes and other equipment. Wear a seatbelt if required to avoid being thrown from a vehicle and then potentially being crushed by the vehicle if it tips over.
On behalf of C1S, I would like to thank you for participating in this safety orientation video. This information is not just important, but it could very well save your life or others around you. Safety is a mindset, and achieving a zero accident workplace is obtainable and realistic. Thank you for working on our job site and partnering with us on safety.